Hello traders, this is a DAX recap video for Tuesday, April the 21st, and the day that started with the good size down move in the pre-market session. So we already got this, and then price started to make a bear flag. With this chart we got also this one from the futures to observe the gaps on futures and also to observe this wedge. So this here was the unfilled part of that Gilead gap that we had a few days ago, and this was the DAX cash index chart, also to observe the same situation with this line and with the levels. Now let's go to the zones chart, and also we can see now. Let's observe first that DAX futures chart. Gilead gap is filled completely today, and now we got here a smallish bounce from this first better area of support. The very important thing for today, besides our trading opportunity, is bigger picture, and bigger picture is best to see on the S&P, which is the most important index of all. And now we can see here that this what was a close above these levels and above the daily 50 turns out to be just a false break, and today we got a good size gap down on the S&P and the US markets in the sell-off mode, with oil that is really in the not in the sell-off mode, but more likely in the hard landing crash mode. On the S&P 240-minute chart, to just zoom this a bit and to observe that the market now is below this trend line, and the same thing goes for DAX. Now let's observe our opportunities. So pre-market high, pre-market low, and already we got this down move, and this down move was for like 200 points, and now where will market open and what can we expect out of this market, and all of that was in the morning notes. Situation the opposite from yesterday, meaning that previous cash close is right here and open was due to be here. So even you see everything, so entire pre-market session below the previous cash close, that means that the everything here is net short, and then we could expect first a move up to correct some of that inventory, and likely that move up then is going to be a sell opportunity given the fact how weak market is. And also we got negative sentiment from the previous session in the US on the US markets, and today from the Asian markets, or all of them were down. So I said here, small time frame bias can change below that reference level, and later we got this at 1:50 p.m. additional changes here. Here was that aggressive support zone. I deleted that because it wasn't so useful, and just lowered a bit this resistance marked as weak market below. So it was before 525 to 550, and just lowered it down for 15 points. And entire session market was below that weak market below zone, then holding below reference level 440 would mean to turn our intraday bias to neutral bearish, and at the end holding below 390 would give the upper hands to sellers, and 390 being the pre-market low, because pre-market low was made pretty early in the session at 4:40 a.m. And then step by step all of that were playing out, and we could vividly see then that everything is just pointing to the downside. So if you are here short, obviously we will try to make our best effort to get a good price for selling this market. Where is the invalidation point? Invalidation point for everything today selling for a bigger target, not just for scalping and for day trading, would be above that weak market below zone. And then after losing the reference level 440, stop losses in this lower part goes above that. That is the invalidation point, and later invalidation point could be even lower. So right at the open was here. We could then see that opening this small spike went to 521, 522, and our weak market below zone initially was 525 to 550. So 3 points just below the zone, that move died, and whenever we got that kind of thing, that market is backing away from the zone for just 1 up to 5 points, check rules and principles on the website. That should be considered as a first test of reference, or in this case of a zone. And in that case it would be also beneficial for us to mark the opening level like this. So this was the opening level. This small green candle was the open, so this was the opening level around 505, and we can see later how market just tagged the opening level and sellers were defending that opening level. That is the thing and the setup that you can get when market is weak. Also, other way around, when market is strong, buyers would defend then opening level. In this case, weak market, sellers are the ones that are defending the opening level, not allowing the market to go any further above. And this, like yesterday, was RTH high of the day, immediately made after the open. So that would be our first opportunity here. We see that market can't go higher, and they almost tested our weak zone below, going slightly below the opening level. Bang, it is backing away from the zone. Personally, I had a resting order then on 540, obviously didn't get the fill, so jumped in. Then if we are jumping in here, our logical target would be pre-market low, and then obviously to move that target a bit higher in order to get the fill. My target was like here for 100 point, and it didn't get that. I got like 95, and then when I observed it's going higher, I closed immediately manually majority of it, and later closed the rest. So no need to argue with it. If you don't get a fill for just a few points on a target, close manually and move on. I wouldn't really do anything here. This zone was later adjusted. We got only reference level at the beginning, and later I made the zone here from 415 up to the reference level. But I wouldn't really bother myself here to take any longs. After all of this, we got serious now of lower highs and weak market, and oil crashing, and US market weak, and the Asian market is weak, so everything was pointing to the downside. No need to buy this dips. Obviously you could make something here, but no need to do that in a weak market, especially later after market was holding below the 440 and our bias turned from neutral to neutral bearish. Test here, they test the opening level, and that is a short. You could also make a trend line like this and later to observe what is this market doing. It was for entire session below weak market, below zone, below opening level, below the trend line. So everything favoring sellers, and this is our additional entry point here, again on a selling. Then you could get scalp or add-on here, like making here a trend line, and you could also jump in here, because this area got tested multiple times. It would be unrealistic to expect that it is going to hold when market is this support. When market is holding, weak market is holding below resistance, then you could expect lower lows. So then this coming back toward the resistance level, we are going to use fibs later, and to observe that this was also fib 48.2 of the RTH move. So again, a classic setup. This you can see smaller mark here because as said before, if you don't want to buy dips on a very weak market, that is perfectly okay. We could expect buyers here, although I said about this zone, it is now not so a strong zone because Gilead gap was already filled more than a half, and the market could just make a weak reaction here. We are expecting that because we also had the unfilled gap here, but that reaction could be much smaller than this. This was a very good reaction, and in my opinion this short is much less riskier than this long. So it is up to us. I totally skipped longs for today. Again, short. This is after US Open and in line with the US Open, as we are also going to see later. And now first, better support. Now observe the thickness of the lines. This is the better resistance, this is the better support. So this is the first better support that we are coming across on, also in line with support on US markets. So that is why we have something here, but you really don't need to do that. There are 4 decent opportunities and a few smaller opportunities to go short, like this one, like this here. So really no need to take those riskier longs. You could just take any of these 4 shorts. Every single one of those was good, at least for a 2-hour trade, if not more. Now observing the fibs. This opening level, which got almost to the hour week market below zone, was from the pre-market high to the pre-market low fib. Look at this. Confluence, halfback, 61.8 was right at our weak market below zone. Between those we got sellers. Later, open and this move from the RTH high, ta-da, to the tick 38.2. So markets are not random, and markets now, look at this zone, acted as an axis zone, and reference level acted as a axis level from before. Resistance, support, holding here, poke below, support, resistance, resistance, range. This got broken, next range, next range. So that is how the market is moving. And for today, as said, selling was better because all things about holding the market below this, then below this, then below this were there. So that would be it for this edition of DAX recap videos. And also a final thing to observe, this on the S&P also. First resistance on the S&P, overnight high, lower, EU open, lower, up to the first better support, and then on first resistance they failed. And that first resistance is this on DAX, where DAX also failed. So this was the best short basically of all, and most fluid move was here after the US Open when S&P took a dive. That would be it for this edition of DAX recap videos, and as always I wish you a pleasant evening and good trading.